What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of my podcast, And Then Came Me. I am the Lotus, and I will be your host tonight. As always, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to stop by and listen to this podcast, or if you're watching it here on YouTube. So last week, we talked a little about some of what was going on before I was born. We talked about some of the hardships that my mother faced with my father before and during her pregnancy with me. We also touched base on the fact that our parents are human, and we shouldn't hold grudges against them for not always making the best decisions in our childhood. For us to be our most happy, healthy, and prosperous selves, we have to let go of any ill feelings that we may have been harboring for them, because holding in ill feelings towards anyone only hurts ourselves. Because the way that I think about it is, everything in life is energy. So if you fill your life with positive things and positive energy, positive things will come. But if you fill your life with negative things and negative energy, negative things will come. So this week, I'm going to talk a little about how life was after I was born. I don't want to waste any time because I'm trying to keep these videos under 20 minutes, and time just flies by while I'm telling you guys these stories. So picking up from where we left off last week, when I was born, I didn't cry, and my mom was immediately concerned because she thought that something was wrong. But actually, nothing was wrong and I was fine. Now, of course, this will all be my mom's account of things because for me, memory of my childhood really doesn't start until I was about 5. So of course, my mother went home with me back to her toxic environment, and both of my parents continued to drink, and it progressively got worse as the years went on. Some of my earliest childhood memories consist of my dad leaving for work early in the morning, and me being at home with my mom throughout the day. She would always cook us breakfast, and we would watch some of her favorite soap operas and just hang out. If it was a really good day, which days like these were my favorite, we would go to the library, pick out DVDs and books for me to watch and read at home, and we would get fast food like Taco Bell or Arthur Treacher's. So this is when Taco Bell was still good. Like, this wasn't like chicken wing Taco Bell. This was back in the day Taco Bell. So if you hear me saying we eating Taco Bell, don't be thinking we was out here eating the chicken wing Taco Bell. And after we did that, we went to Taco Bell or Arthur Treacher's. We might go to like the park or something on the way home. So these days were definitely my favorite because I was never allowed outside, at least not without a parent. So most of the time, if I was outside, it was either walking like from the house to the car to go to the liquor store with them, or if I was getting taken to and from school. I was never just outside chilling. Like, that wasn't a thing. I didn't go outside and hang out with other kids. I didn't go outside and ride bikes or run up and down the street. Like, that wasn't a thing. If I was outside riding a bike, which my bike had training wheels on it, still at 5 years old, I still had training wheels. 6 years old, I still had training wheels. It was like a rare occasion if I got to go outside and somebody was with me. So just keep that in mind. So it was lit. If we're outside, it's lit. So I looked forward to days like these where it was just me and my mom. One of the main reasons behind that was because she was sober. It was finally a time that we could be together and she would actually hear me clearly without the noise of alcohol drowning me out. But sadly, these days would come to an end, just as everything else in our lives. Sidebar, I feel that this is a perfect time for me to remind you all that everything in life has a time limit. So if you are going through a hard time right now, which I know most of us are and have been for the past few years, it gets to a point of feeling like it just never ends. But the good news is, it does. Everything in our life has a time limit. The bad days and, unfortunately, the good days too. So just try to remain current in every situation, because once the moment passes, it's gone. We will never experience this exact moment again, ever in life. You may experience moments that are similar to these, like, of course, I'm here every Friday posting this podcast for you, but we will never relive this exact moment again. So just keep that in mind. So jumping back into the story, I had this amazing day with my mom, and then it would just come the time to go back home. Before my dad got off work, we would be heading back home. because If my dad got home and we weren't there, it was a problem. Okay. Where did you go? What did you do? Who did you see? Who was there? Why were you there? Why did you do this? Why did you do that? It was just means to start an argument, basically. If he went home and my mom was not home, it was just a problem. So once again, my mother tries to keep peace and tried to always make sure that we were home before he was. Knowing my father was getting off work and that he was on his way home was always a bittersweet feeling for me. He would pretty much always call the house before starting his drive home to ask my mom if she wanted anything, and her typical answer would be a pack of cigarettes, maybe a bag of ice, because she already knew that he would be stopping at the liquor store for a bottle of alcohol every day before he headed home. After speaking with her, he would ask to talk to me, and he would ask me if I wanted anything, and my typical answer was a Happy Meal, because I knew it was across the street from the liquor store, and of course, he would arrive home with the cigarettes, the alcohol, the bag of ice, and last but not least, my Happy Meal. As you can see, your girl loved to eat her whole entire life. So looking at this today, this was most likely the beginning of my toxic relationship with fast food. Last week, we touched base on how things that happen to us before we're born impact our lives today. If your parents are under high amounts of stress, why your mom pregnant with you if she's stressing out, how that affects you. If your parents are consuming drugs and alcohol, how does that affect you? So today we're kind of going to touch base on these early childhood bad habits that are formed. So in my case, every day I'm seeing that when my father comes home from work, my mom's whole energy changes. Looking at it now, I know it's because she was miserable and that she knew what was coming when he got home. So, of course, her mood was going to go downhill. And mine was too, because I knew that the fun day that we was just having, it was over. It's a wrap, baby. This is it. So they both needed things to cope with their situations. So for my father, he was probably miserable from working all day long. And now knowing he has to come home to a wife that he didn't want to get married to, if you watched last week's podcast, and a kid that he never wanted. Okay. On top of, you probably just had a shitty day at work. Let me stop and get this bottle. And my mom, who was also going to consume that alcohol and smoke the little cigarettes that she asked for. And then me, unknowingly falling into a bad coping mechanism as well at the early age by just asking for something that made me happy, which is food. Fast forward, my dad gets home and it begins. They both start off by taking their first drinks together. They would just kind of chill, hang out, play the PlayStation together. They like to play like football, Madden together, and just like that was their thing. They play like 007, just it was real chill at first. While they doing that, I'm just happy as hell that I got me some little chicken nuggets with some sweet and sour sauce. So I'm not thinking about nothing else but eating my little chicken nuggets. And, back in my day, that's when McDonald's, I keep talking like I was born all these years ago, but that's when McDonald's used to give you the real toys. It wasn't no cheap, little cheap shit. I was getting some real toys in these Happy Meals. So I was happy. It was a good day. Had my chicken nuggets, had me some little french fries, little drink, little Coke or something. And I had my brand new toy, right? So fast forward a few hours and the vibe has just completely shifted. The bottle is pretty much empty at this point and they lit. My father was an argumentative drunk. Okay. Like, I'm mad. I feel like you looking at me some type of way. So like, what's up? Like he would just find literally anything. I don't know if you've ever seen the meme on like Instagram where it says, if I start looking at you funny after I'm drinking, it's time for me to leave type thing. That was my dad. So he would literally find the smallest things to start an argument over. Maybe he misplaced something and couldn't find it. So now my mama stole it. If he wanted to hook his surround sound speaker up to the TV and he just so happened to hit the wrong button while he was setting it up, and he done messed it up. So that means that she was touching something while he was going to work and she done broke his speaker, right? Everything was her fault. Who else? It was her fault. And this was also back when we had the dial-up internet, like while you connected to the internet, it's going like it's making all these sounds and stuff. So my mom would get on the little dial-up internet on this big black ass computer and sit there and message, like instant message with my aunt in Florida. Well, in my father's mind, she's sitting there talking to a man. Why is you sitting there talking to these men on the internet? My mother, on the other hand, was not an argumentative drunk until someone bothered her. At least early on. Towards the end of her alcoholism, she was definitely down to start a fight. My mom was lit towards the end. So he would start the argument and they would scream back and forth for hours about whatever it was that day, because every day was something different and petty. If there was alcohol left, they of course were still continuing to drink that while they're arguing. And sometimes they would stop arguing for a minute because they came to an agreement that they was going, get back buddy and we're going to ride up to the liquor store together. And if that was the case, that just added more fuel to the fire. So we gonna click up, we bestie buddies while we riding up to the liquor store. And then as soon as they got back to the house, the fight would resume. And it was just so crazy to me. It's literally like somebody hit pause on it. They rode up to the store, came back, and just resumed. So in reality, this was like round 2 for them. And it was always way, way worse than round 1, which was them just chilling. At this point, my father would start to get into my mom's face, screaming, yelling, hollering, and my father was definitely one of those people. When he gets to yelling in your face, he is spitting. Like, he's spitting everywhere. And if you've ever been in a situation with a person that is just screaming and yelling for no reason, and then on top of that, they're spitting everywhere, like they're spitting in your face, you get mad. You like, back up out of my space. Back the hell up, go sit down. So that would be where my mom would get to, where she would push him and say, you know what, get out of my space. And then it would turn into a full-blown WWE wrestling match. They were throwing each other into tables. They were cracking each other over the heads with whatever they could find, anything that was sitting down or around while they fighting. They were cracking each other with it. And I remember we had a metal pole in the house behind the door, like right when you come in. This is literally black people logic. Like, you break into my house and you're not gonna see the pole because you're opening the door. So I'm somehow gonna get to the pole before you see it and crack you in the head with it because you breaking into my house. I don't know. This is my dad's black people logic. Like, I'm gonna fuck you up with this metal pole if you come breaking through my door. So I remember the one time my dad literally took that metal pole and actually cracked my mom across the back with it. So my mom has scoliosis, which means she has a small hump in her back. So it's because her spine is curved. So if you don't know what scoliosis is, that's what it is. So here I am crying for them to stop. Please stop fighting. Please, please stop. He takes the damn pole and he cracks her across the back with it. And she falls on the ground and she does not get up. Okay. There was many times I watched them fight, but it was always like, I'm getting up immediately. And now it's my time to like crack you with something like back. I got to get my hit back. She falls on the ground. She doesn't get up. And at this point, I'm hysterical because in my mind, I'm like, oh my gosh, as a kid, you're not really like, I know she has scoliosis, but I don't know the full like extent of what that means. Like if something goes wrong with it. So I'm like, oh my God, he just cracked her in the back with the pole and he fucked up her scoliosis. And now she's dead. Like, you just killed my mom. She's dead. So I'm standing over her and I'm crying. I'm like, Mom, please get up. Please get up. Please wake up. Please wake up. And she's not moving. So in my mind, I'm like, in the movies, what do? When a person dies, what do? Something told me to throw some water on her. So I go to the bathroom and we had a bucket in the bathroom and I fill the bucket up with cold water. I'm in tears. I'm literally hysterical. And I take this bucket of cold water and I run out and I just dump it on her. Of course, she sits up. She's mad as hell. I just dumped this bucket of freezing cold water on her and she's drunk and she just got cracked in the back with a pole. And now here I am drowning her because I'm trying to bring her back to life. And I'm like, thank God this worked, but like, she's mad as hell. But obviously she wasn't dead. She was playing dead to see if my dad would care. And he did not. I don't know why she thought he would. The man went and he laid down on the couch. He was through with it. So mind you, they're both drunk off their asses. So Logic doesn't live in this house anymore. He left at 5 o'clock when my daddy got home. Like, there's no logic to anything that's going on right now. So this is going to be my last point as I start to digress. You might watch this stuff and say, Nicole, why are you telling these stories in a laughing manner? Like, this is serious. And I 110% agree with you that this is serious. And I spent a lot of my childhood crying over it because I thought for sure that my parents were going to kill each other. In these little Mortal Kombat matches that they was having. But for me now, I can look back at it in a more lighthearted manner because they didn't know any better. And they were just two people that were lost in their own madness. And because of them making these mistakes, I have been able to look back at that and use it as an example of what not to do in my own life. I worked in a daycare for a few months, and early childhood is literally one of the most important times in your life because you're absorbing and learning everything. For some of you, you may go through these types of situations and become that, or it may be like a trigger to you to be around anything that is similar to those experiences that you witnessed as a child. And definitely for me, I can agree with that. That's why I don't go out and drink. I don't go to the club. You will not catch me at a club. If I go to like a friend's house and they're having a party and they're drinking and like they're getting sloppy, I'm leaving. I'm going home. So definitely in my life, I can say that to a point, there are things that will still trigger me. But for me, it's really just, I just won't accept it. I won't put myself in a situation to even have to be around it. So I really do understand the impact that these situations have on people. My response to high stress situations are never ever good, ever. I'm easy to jump to conclusions, just like my father, and I have a bad temper when things do not go on, like my way. Because that's what I knew. That's what I seen as how you respond to those situations. When something's not going your way, you yell and scream and holler until it gets figured out. But the thing is, I've learned to recognize these things, and now I'm reprogramming myself to respond in a more productive way to certain situations. This is obviously where some of us may fall short. We can recognize the bad behavior, but have no interest in trying to fix it or to try to learn how to respond differently or better. So that's pretty much why I'm here. Me being able to talk to you about all of these things helps you have an example of where these behaviors come from. So you can kind of take my situation and look back on your situation in your life and say, okay, well, for me in that early childhood age, what was going on? This was going on, this was going on, and this was going on. The people that I was around would respond by doing this or respond by doing this. And at that point, you can kind of identify, well, maybe that's where that comes from. Maybe that's why I act that way. So once you're able to realize where it's coming from, and we also realize that it was just bad programming from the start that made us that way overall. I don't want to keep you all for too long tonight. So for next week's video, I'm just going to probably skip some of my own personal stories and just get down to the root of how to cope properly and resolve these bad behaviors. I hope tonight's video gave you a little more insight as to where some of our daily responses, whether they be good or bad, come from. Take some time to reflect on some of your own behaviors. Maybe leave me a comment below on some of yours, and we can talk about them together. Please don't forget that this is a safe space for all of us to just be able to have a real life conversation, not for you to just watch these videos and go on about your day and forget about it. So just think on everything that I kind of talked about tonight and use it as a comparison to your own life. I'll be looking for y'all comments too, so make sure y'all telling me something. I want to hear something because I know we all ain't just perfect out here, so y'all better be dropping a comment. And of course, any specific questions, comments, concerns, you can also leave that down in the comments below, or you can feel free to contact me on Instagram or email. As always, thank you all so much for taking the time out of your day to stop by and listen to this podcast or watch it. And I can't wait to see you guys next week. I am the Lotus, and you can be too. Bye.